Chapter 15. The King's Council. 3 days after the return of Dyaxes and the princes, another army approached the gates of Arjon. But when the guards saw the purple and white banners and the fierce dragon standard of King Ilias, they knew they had nothing to fear. Indeed, it was with great honor that they welcomed the Varillian king's eldest son, Elriar, to their city. The crown prince's sudden appearance was not the only surprise to which the Teluvians were treated. Accompanying him was King Eluthian's eldest daughter, Lucinda. The golden-haired daughter of the Teluvian king was considered by many to be the most beautiful maiden in the known world. It was Elriar's good fortune that he had been granted the right to court her, though no engagement had yet been set. Eluthian extended a warm welcome to the Varillian prince and his most favored daughter. Elriar graciously accepted the king's hospitality and apologized for what he deemed to be his tardiness. "I came as soon as I received word of the war," Elriar said. "When I considered the time that had passed from my first learning of the invasion to finally reaching the Golden Woods, I feared that I would see red and black flags flying over Argion when I arrived. It was with great relief that I witnessed the good fortune of your people. Never before have I been so happy to make such a vain journey. I would hardly call a mission vain that brings such a cherished treasure back to me," Eluthian said, referring to Lucinda. Yes, I was reluctant to bring her, fearing the unknown dangers we might face at journey's end. But as you well know, your daughter is every bit persistent as she is fair," Elriar remarked. "I told you your fears were unwarranted," Lucinda said. "No army of brutish humans can hope to prevail against our noble kingdom." But if you only knew how close they came," Eluthian said. "Perhaps you would like to meet the warriors who so bravely defended this kingdom." "It would be a pleasure to meet those who rendered my services useless," Elriar said good-naturedly. Eluthian introduced the knights in turn. Though Elriar was well acquainted with Cerberus and Dialis, and Lucinda had grown up with both, they both marveled at the change in the young elves. "When I last saw you only a short time ago, you were just boys," Lucinda marveled. "The transformation is remarkable," Elriar agreed. "But where is Ectheon?" "He has gone to Ildor for the crowning of Queen Sarah of Elcadia," Eluthian explained. "His feats of bravery during the war have made him a hero in Ursulus. His arrow killed the wicked King Urkai, saving the life of Sarah and freeing Ursulus from the tyrant's grip. But now I would like to introduce the man who helped to mold Ectheon and the others here into the heroes they have become," Eluthian continued. "The man whose brilliant strategy saved us from the Ursals and whose skill and courage saved us from the dreaded Mordrikin. I present to you Dyaxes, the Dragonslayer." Lucinda's sapphire eyes flared with interest as she gazed upon the handsome warrior. His presence filled the room. His power and charisma were obvious even before he spoke. "It is indeed a great honor to meet the son of the mighty King Ilias," Dyaxes said, addressing Elriar first. "Nay, it is my privilege to meet the renowned slayer of Mordraken," Elriar countered. "The minstrels of my father's house have already put your exploits to song, and rightfully so. Your bravery rivals that of the greatest heroes of either of our kingdoms." "You are too kind, sir," Dyaxes said with a humble bow. "And you, my lady, are too beautiful for words," he said, turning to Lucinda. "It appears your charm equals your courage, brave Dyaxes," Lucinda remarked. Elriar felt a wave of jealousy wash over him as he watched the way the princess's eyes fell upon the commander. The prince had basked in the assumption that his marriage to Lucinda was a foregone conclusion. But as he watched Lucinda's manner in the presence of Dyaxes, he felt a growing need to press Eluthian for an engagement. If permitted an opportunity, the commander could prove to be a formidable rival for the princess's affections. Elriar was right to recognize the threat posed by Dyaxes, for after dinner that night, Lucinda extended the courtesy of her company to the commander as they walked in the lavish palace garden. "What place did you call home before joining us here in Teluvia, noble Dyaxes?" Lucinda asked. "Actually, I have never called anyone place my home up until now," Dyaxes replied. "I have spent most of my life traveling." "Were your parents merchants?" the princess asked. No, Diaxis answered. They died when I was just a boy. I am sorry, Lucinda said. It must have been hard growing up without them. Who looked after you after they died? I looked after myself, the commander said. I learned to survive on my own. I took odd jobs and even stole to get food when I had to. You stole? The princess gasped. My dear lady, you have no idea what it is like to go hungry, Diaxis said. Not a between meals kind of hunger, mind you, but a gnawing pain in your stomach that never seems to go away. I never realized that, Lucinda said, somewhat ashamed. What a hard life you have led. It was not all bad, Diaxis said. During my wanderings, I have managed to meet quite a few interesting people, and I have seen many beautiful places. And many beautiful ladies, no doubt, Lucinda added. Yes, but none as lovely as you, fair Lucinda, Diaxis said as he placed his fingers beneath the maiden's chin. The princess blushed at the commander's compliment. I bet you could tell some wonderful stories, Lucinda said as she gazed up at Diaxis with eyes full of anticipation. I would love to hear them, and I would love to share them with you, Diaxis replied. But the night grows long, and I fear Elriar may grow angry if I keep you from him much longer. I'm not Elriar's to be kept, Lucinda said, almost defiantly. Not yet anyway. But you are right. The night is growing long. However, I will not bid you good night until you promise to tell me one of your stories tomorrow morning in this very place. You have my promise, Diaxis vowed. The following day, there was a meeting of the King's Council to discuss the need to rebuild the kingdom's army. Diaxis insisted that hiring individuals with a proven record of military skill was the only immediate solution to the problem, even though it meant recruiting soldiers from outside of Teluvia. Aedril vocally opposed such a policy. Loyalty that is paid for is not the same as loyalty that is earned, the knight argued. We should be wary of those who fight for reward rather than principle. The good commander aside, I think that it would be a grave mistake to entrust the security of this nation to those who have abandoned their native lands. Then you would have me raise an army solely from the elves who dwell beneath the gilded boughs of this forest, Diaxis asked in irritation. The very same elves who fled these woods before the wrath of the dragon and sought shelter in faraway places as their homeland burned? You are a native of this country, Aedril. Where were you as Mordrekan's shadow passed over this land? I was away, Aedril said evenly. Seeking safety or seeking fortune? Diaxis challenged him. I had my reasons, Aedril said elusively. And what are we to do if our citizens find similar reasons to avoid future conflicts? Diaxis asked. I am afraid we cannot afford to cater to the loftier ideals of some of those seated at this table. The cold truth is, there are not enough elves of valor in this kingdom to mount a proper defense. Urkine knew this, and you had better believe there are men of similar ambition who know it as well. Your words are true, Diaxis, a Luthian interjected in a calm but grave tone. But so are Aedril's. Mordraken robbed us of our military heritage. There are no true soldiers left in this kingdom except for those gathered at this table. However, I fear your words about the elves of this kingdom may have been too harsh, Diaxis. The elves who fled had never raised a sword before in their lives. How could one expect them to dare to face such a monster when the greatest heroes of our land had already been destroyed by it? And you seem to forget that they later found the courage to join you in your march to the very gates of Ursus itself. But I admit that we cannot expect the valor displayed in a moment of dire peril to lead to a career of military service. The elves who drove out the Ursals already occupy much-needed roles within this kingdom. They are its farmers, its blacksmiths, and its craftsmen. Some of their sons may grow to become our soldiers, but as Diaxis said, we cannot afford to wait that long. Our good commander was a stranger to our land, yet he proved to be one of our greatest heroes. However, We cannot expect that all who come offering their services will be of similar character. Eadril's warning weighs heavily on my mind. Purchased loyalty is not loyalty at all. Rather, it is a service available to the highest bidder. It is with great reluctance that I admit the need to pursue Diax's method of recruitment. I only pray that in our efforts to ward off danger from without, we do not create treachery from within. Eadril brooded over the king's decision as he leaned on the railing of one of the balconies overlooking the courtyard. Lost in his thoughts, he did not hear Princess Lydia's approach until she spoke. Look at them, parading around so shamelessly while poor Prince Elriar visits with my father, the princess said bitterly as she watched Lucinda and Diaxes walking through the far end of the courtyard. You do not approve of your sister's behavior? Eadril noted. Hardly, Lydia said. She is practically engaged to Prince Elriar. To entertain another in such a fashion is just unseemly. Perhaps she has discovered that she prefers Diaxes, Eadril suggested. She would be a fool too, Lydia said. And so you do not approve of the commander either? Eadril asked. No more than you do, Lydia countered. What do you mean by that? Eadril asked, sharply. I may be a maiden, but that does not mean that I am deaf, Lydia replied, even though as a maiden I am often forced to pretend as though I am. I do not question your ability to hear, Eadril said. However, I do not recall speaking a single word against Diaxes in your presence. Do you think you speak in a void? Lydia laughed. Surely I, a simple maiden, need not remind a knight that the walls have ears, particularly those of this palace. And are we surrounded by unseen ears here? Eadril asked. For it seems to me that you are speaking rather provocatively. I say what is on my mind regardless of who might be listening, Lydia said boldly. It is my belief that one should not cloak one's emotions or wear a mask of insincerity. Indeed, the world would be a better place if we all spoke so plainly. You may be right, Eadril said with a laugh, and so I will now speak plainly to you. Diaxes is an ambitious man, and in the hands of a king, an ambitious man can be a double-edged sword. The one edge is most useful for dealing with the king's enemies, but the king must be careful, lest the other edge turn against him and deliver a mortal blow. And so you do not trust him, Lydia surmised. Eadril was silent for a moment, as he turned and gazed upon the spot where the commander and Lucinda stood. No, he finally said. I do not. Neither do I, Lydia said coldly. Later that day, the king met privately in his chamber with Archbishop Onthariel. It seems your prophecy is coming true, Eluthian said. 2 strangers have come to Teluvia, and both have acted heroically. But one of them will betray you, the Archbishop reminded him. Yes, Eluthian said thoughtfully. The question is, which one? If you are expecting an answer from me, I am afraid I cannot give you one, Onthariel said. You have been in the presence of both men, the king noted. Have you not the slightest sense of their true character? Just because I am a servant of that which is good does not mean that I am an infallible detector of evil, the Archbishop said. But surely you must have an inkling, a gut feeling, if you will, Eluthian pressed him. I think that it would be unfair to voice such feelings, knowing as little as I do about both men, Onthariel insisted. Then let us examine what we do know, Eluthian mused. They are both strangers to this kingdom. I have heard it said that Eadril is from Edgewood. However, that village is Teluvian in name only. At any given time, there are more travelers than citizens there. And judging from his appearance, Eadril has only a hint of elven blood, which means that at least one of his parents is not native to our land. Do you feel he may be hiding something? Onthariel asked. He seems to be hiding everything, the king said in exasperation. I have known both men for roughly the same amount of time, yet it seems as though I have known Diaxes forever and Eadril not at all. For some, the past may be too difficult to discuss, the Archbishop noted. Yes, that is all too true, Eleuthian agreed. And it could very well be true in this case. You said you feel as though you have known Dyaxis all your life, Ontario noted. What made you say that? He is a very open and outspoken person, the king said fondly. He has regaled me with countless tales of the journeys that brought him here. His words paint such a vivid picture that I feel as though I have watched his entire life unfold with my own eyes. At least the life he wants you to see, the archbishop pointed out. So you think that he may be lying to me? The king asked. Not necessarily, Ontario said. But just as it is a mistake to take Eadril's silence for deception, so is it unwise to embrace Dyax's openness for honesty. You make a good point, Eleuthian conceded. I am curious to know what you think of these two men. Based on my limited observations, I find Eadril to be a rather enigmatic fellow, Ontario began. But beyond this, I am struck by other aspects of his character. He seems wise beyond his years. While such a quality can be innate, it seems unreasonable that it could have been refined to the remarkable degree I see displayed in him by a simple woodsman's upbringing. I agree, Eleuthian said, and it is that which fuels my doubts of his origin. There is something else as well, the archbishop continued. He has an air of nobility about him. His speech and manners mock him to be one of royal descent, yet he has made no claim as such. He is a half-breed, Eleuthian said. Do you suppose he could be the bastard son of a Varillian lord and a Nordrian mistress? Perhaps, the archbishop ventured. His features certainly draw from both races. And it would be just the sort of origin one would not be inclined to discuss. However, as plausible as it sounds, we cannot assume it to be true. But if it were, what could we draw from it? Eleuthian pondered. A man born in dishonor, attempting to make an honorable name for himself? Or a man seeking a position of power from which to exact revenge upon the society that made him an outcast? Ontario suggested. And so there is a case to be made for him either way, Eleuthian said wearily. But what about Dyaxis? A child of misfortune, grown to be a man of valor, the archbishop said. I will not question the tale of his childhood, except to say that I find his claim that his parents were killed by a dragon to be unusually coincidental. But why would he make up such a thing? The king asked. To make it seem as though he had nobler motives for killing the dragon than simply a desire for wealth and power, Ontario explained. But I would not have cared either way, Eleuthian said. But you would have thought of him differently, the archbishop suggested. Perhaps, the king conceded, but my gratitude would have outweighed my doubts of his character. You say that in hindsight, the archbishop said, but you and I both know that it is the difference between being compensated as a mercenary and embraced as a hero. Dyaxis knew this difference as well, and so he might have fabricated a tale to get us to think of him in a better light, the king said with a shrug. The fact is, he has risked his life to save this kingdom on more than one occasion. He has rightfully earned a position of great wealth and power within this realm. But is that enough for him? The archbishop asked. Is it enough to be the commander of another's army? Is this the pinnacle for him, the fulfillment of all his hopes and dreams? Or does he want more? And if he does want more, could you stop him from taking it? That is a question I am loath to contemplate, the king said grimly. But you must, for you know the name of the man who will attempt to take your kingdom from you, Ontario pressed him. The only question remaining is whether that name is Eadril or Dyaxis. So what do I do? Eleuthian asked in despair. Do I send them both away? Do I arrange for both of their deaths to wipe away any chance of danger? Do I punish an innocent man to rid myself of one whose guilt has yet to be revealed? You know that you cannot do those things precisely for the reasons you just stated, the archbishop said. One of these men is innocent. Much more than that, he has risked his life for you and your people. Dyaxis killed Mordraken. Both men played key roles in driving out the Ursals. Could you live with yourself, knowing that you treated a man who showed you so much loyalty like a common criminal? And what would the people think of you if you exiled or executed these men? What would your sons think? Yes, they have grown quite fond of the both of them, Eluthian said. Oh, what am I to do? Is there no way to avert this calamity? In my vision, I saw an attempt to destroy Teluvia, Ondario said. I did not see the ultimate result of that attempt, but I fear this much is true. One man will surely betray you, and the other will stand by you. Right now, only God and the traitor himself knows which is which.